Hello everyone. I'm finally getting around to doing this book review that everybody is so eagerly awaited for. But first off, let me start off in saying I've had a lot of video requests, and at the moment I'm currently studying for my level 3 personal training qualification. I'm a fitness coach and a group exercise instructor at the moment, but I want to try and progress a bit more into that. So in terms of actually going and doing the research for the videos and stuff like that, it's my course and my revision that I have to do is taken priority. So the video front has had to take a step back. Okay, so without further ado, I want to talk about this book, The Devil's Dozen by Jenna Gary, 13 Craft Rights of the Old One. And first, let me just start off by saying that it's such a gorgeous looking book, and it's one of the reasons why I like Troy Books as publishers, because they do the books in different editions and actual, good prints of the books. And we don't get enough books like this anymore. We really don't. And it's great to see. It's great to see books like this. Like, for instance, The Charm of Sartor. It's just the way that her books are laid out, I find really, really beautiful and really aesthetically gorgeous. You can almost see them on like a film, Sleepy Hollow or something. But the artwork in the book is absolutely gorgeous. I'll show you one of my favourite pictures. But yeah, so you get 13 chapters, and basically you've got the man in black, Under the Horns, The Witch's Knoll, Raising the Stang, The Horned Castle, The Wish Towns, The Light Betwixt, All Is One, Skin Turning and the Wild Hunt, The Bucker Vessel, and The Old Farmer. And yeah, I actually watched The Black Chair, not watched, but listened to an interview with her and on The Black Chair. And it was great to actually listen to it, the interview, before reading it, because I kind of got that different sway on it, and a bit more went into the book, obviously because it's an interview about the book, but it really was, I really will agree in what the interviewer said, that he said it was very, very poetic and very beautiful. The wording is gorgeous, it really is. I've read it like 4 times because it's just such a pleasant read. It's just so nice to actually read. The way the wording's used, just the wording is so evocative and gorgeous. It's beautiful, and I love that about this book. What I also liked about this book was how, in this book, she explained how the modern neo-pagan community have become quite uncomfortable with the more traditional, darker aspects of the horned god, and basically saying, that passiveness has also sadly been the fate of the old one within the rites and ways of much that is neo-pagan witchcraft. And it's talking about how people often make a lot of rejections and stuff like that, and it's denying a lot of rejections on some of the folklore around witchcraft, and how it's denying much of the old potency of witchcraft. And I very much, it's refreshing to hear an author actually say this. It's refreshing to hear another author in modern witchcraft, in a modern witchcraft movement, actually state that, and I completely and utterly agreed with her on this. And what I like about this book is it actually involves going out and doing stuff. And I think a lot of the times I hear of people that may identify themselves as witches or pagan, but they don't actually go out and do stuff. They don't actually go out and work in woodlands or forests or stuff like that. And Obviously, there are certain limitations we may have. Some people may not be in woodland areas. I'm not. I live in a city. However, on the Sabbats and Esbats, I make that trek out to the countryside to be in the woods, and I make that pilgrimage, pagan pilgrimage, so to speak. And I think a lot of the times in modern witchcraft, there has been this beginning of a denial of working outside, and a lot more people are working indoors and stuff like that. And I think I'd rather pick working outdoors compared to working indoors. How can somebody say I worship the earth and I work with the land when they don't actually engage in it? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, obviously, everyone has lives and kids, and people are busy and stuff like that. However, I think it is something for people to consider. It's a big part of witchcraft, working in the churchyard, working in graveyards, working in the woodlands, in the forests. It really is an integral part of witchcraft, and I think you learn a lot about witchcraft going outside. And Doreen Valiente once said, "You will learn more about witchcraft than any book if you go onto the moors under the full moon and listen to the wind howl in the trees." And I love that statement, because you really do learn a lot about witchcraft as a practice if you just go out and immerse yourself. This book, what I loved about this book is hardcore. It really is hardcore, and there's no other way describing it. She doesn't mess about. There is a chapter called All Is One, which basically involves somebody going out into a barn or into a countryside building that's been secluded, or into the woods, and basically doing that, just laying down naked amongst 5 points candles. And it's the idea that you build up this fear, and you lay there the whole night until the morning, motionless, and you have to stay there. And the fear overtakes you to the point of a deep and heavy trance. And then you get to the point where you get in such a deep trance, you start to then commune with the spirits and the spirit world and stuff like that. And it's much like the exercise I was talking about before. And this is one of the exercises I loved because it's so hardcore. But this book isn't passive. It's not a passive book. It's very much an active book. And the artwork. Oh, that picture. I love it. And in this book, you can tell that the rituals are taken from older sources. So, for instance, there is a ritual of initiation that involves the witch going to a churchyard and, going around the churchyard anti-clockwise, and that's very much embedded in folklore. There's the witch's nail, or it's basically a large iron nail. I'll get the picture up. That, is in old witch lore, the idea of this nail, using an iron nail to pin down your magic or to communicate with the spirits of the dead. And that's what it says in this book, that Cecil Williamson said, he used an iron nail. You can use an iron nail to drive into a working space and to communicate with the spirits of the dead. And so, it's very, very interesting how they do. Oh, there we go. Cecil Williamson spoke of putting a nail to the ground in graveyards in order to listen to the spirits of the departed. So you can tell that it's very much taken from older sources. The only thing I have with this book, there's an element to this book. Some of the rituals, not all, just one or two, is I found very big similarities between traditional Wicca and some of the rituals. So there is a part in one of the rituals where you go around the 4 cardinals and you trace a pentagram and then bring it into the circle, which is very, very Wiccan. But, however, we know that that's been taken from the Solomonic grimoires and the ceremonial magical traditions, and that is embedded in the Western ceremonial magic traditions. And we know that people incorporated folk ceremonial magic, the old cunning folk and stuff like that. So it could be that. And there's the idea of cleansing the ground before you work, before you do your workings. And if outdoors, I wouldn't necessarily do that unless something really, really bad happened there, in which case I wouldn't be working. I wouldn't be working there. So yeah, but however, different people work differently, and I suppose that's the beauty of witchcraft. But this book, the rituals in it, it was just so pleasant to read. It was really enjoyable. There's some mentions of Tubal Cain there as well, and that you can tell that there is an element there taken from the clan of Tubal Cain. And among other things, it's very, very interesting read. It was £20.50 with postage and packaging, and for a book this quality, with these gorgeous pictures, it's worth the money. I think it's worth the money. However, overseas it will be a little bit more pricey, I imagine. But yeah, it's just very interesting. There's a rite of skin turning there, which was really, really sort of skin turning, which really interested me. I love that. I love that it incorporates the shamanic element there of witchcraft. So yes, very, very good book, very interesting. And yeah, I'd highly recommend this book. And the thing is, in the modern traditional witchcraft movement, apart from the Masks of Misrule by Nigel Jackson, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think there's any other book that is dedicated wholly to the horned god, and it's nice to kind of have a bit of a revamp of that. Obviously the rituals in Masks of Misrule are handy and are very cool, but it's nice to have a bit more of a folkloric spin upon it. And there is some folklore in the Masks of Misrule. However, this incorporates a lot more folkloric stuff, and it's refreshing to hear that, and it's refreshing to see that, because at least it's been taken from older sources, adapted obviously, because there would be no such thing as a word from word old traditional thing, because everybody done everything so differently. One cunning man would have practiced completely different from a wayside witch. It would have differed. So yeah, that's my book review, The Devil's Dozen by Gemma Gary.